Matthew LaCroix's approach to ancient history is unique. He doesn't stand in opposition to mainstream archaeology. Instead, he builds bridges between academic scholars, archaeologists, climatologists, and the alternative history world. This cooperative stance allows him to explore controversial evidence without the acrimony that often plagues alternative researchers. To him, it's not about discrediting traditional narratives, but expanding them in light of new findings and fresh interpretive approaches. How often are we willing to follow the evidence even if it threatens the established timeline? This mindset leads LaCroix to work legitimately and collaboratively with professionals worldwide, securing permits and building respectful relationships that most alternative voices bypass. His documentary project, filmed across 6 countries, invites audiences on a shared adventure, not of speculative theory, but of empirical exploration. What could be discovered if we simply set aside division and walk the archaeological sites together? Central to LaCroix's research are the Sumerian clay tablets, wedged pieces of baked clay that have survived over 5,000 years. Unlike fragile paper or fleeting cave paintings, these tablets preserve first-hand accounts from cultures such as the Sumerians, Akkadians, and Babylonians. According to LaCroix, the integrity of these tablets lies in their durability and in the continuity of their stories, particularly regarding human origins and ancient knowledge. He stresses the critical necessity of accurate translation and cross-referencing among versions of these tablets, understanding that many modern interpretations are clouded by religious or cultural bias. Have we ever questioned whose hands have shaped our history and what biases might have warped the original messages? LaCroix's meticulous study exposes how even immense libraries of ancient knowledge have been filtered through layers of distortion over time. One of the earliest academic cracks in conventional chronology, as LaCroix recounts, is the research by Robert Schoch and John Anthony West, who argued that water erosion patterns on the Great Sphinx suggest a far older date than traditionally accepted. Mainstream Egyptology resists this change, but the geological evidence presents an enigma. The Sphinx appears to have weathering incompatible with the dry conditions of the dynastic period. This singular geological observation throws open doors about a civilization existing much earlier than carbon dating or mainstream history currently acknowledges. What if the very monuments around us hold clues that rewrite the timelines of human civilization? And what does it mean when academic consensus clings tightly to outdated dogma despite contradictory evidence? One of the most astonishing discoveries that LaCroix highlights are the underwater ruins in Turkey's Lake Van. These submerged megalithic structures were recently found, just a few years ago, deep underwater, some resting as far down as 75 feet. The existence of symbols on these ruins, identical to those seen in Egypt and elsewhere around the globe, suggests a shared knowledge and culture far predating traditionally accepted timelines. The sudden inundation of this area is now linked to major volcanic activity that blocked natural lake outlets, causing water levels to surge dramatically and forever hide these sites beneath the surface. Could this lake's ruins be remnants of a lost civilization swallowed by global cataclysms at the end of the last ice age? How much of our history lies trapped underwater, waiting to be rediscovered? LaCroix brings attention to the older and younger Dryas periods, episodes of sudden climate upheaval documented in ice cores from Greenland and Antarctica, which saw temperature spikes and drops far more extreme than currently observed global warming. These violent cyclical events correlate with abrupt mass extinctions, like the rapid freezing of mammoths, preserving them with undigested food and green leaves still intact. These events challenge the slow and gradual evolution narratives often taught, suggesting instead catastrophic, punctuated disruptions that reshaped Earth and its inhabitants repeatedly. Are we prepared to rethink human survival in the context of repeated near-apocalyptic climate swings? And how did ancient civilizations survive or fail these cataclysms? Throughout the podcast, LaCroix underscores the astounding sophistication of ancient stonework visible worldwide. Perfectly fitted polygons in Peru, polished granite boxes in Egypt, and titanic basalt blocks in Turkey. These civilizations were extracting, cutting, and moving stones weighing thousands of tons with precision that modern engineering struggles to replicate, even with machines. LaCroix notes the presence of vitrification, stone melted and fused by immense heat, on some megaliths, implying extraordinary thermal events linked to cosmic or electromagnetic phenomena. He also discusses the magnetic properties of select stones, theorizing that these ancient builders chose materials not just for durability, but for energy-related reasons. If ancient peoples wielded energies we barely comprehend today, what might be the lost science behind these masterpieces? Diving deeper into Turkey's marvels, LaCroix explores sprawling underground cities like Derinkuyu and Kaymakli. These labyrinthine refuges, extending miles beneath the surface with air shafts, water supplies, and living quarters, suggest a population prepared to survive extended cataclysms without ever seeing sunlight. Building such cities required immense knowledge and labor, yet their creators remain a great mystery. LaCroix speculates that they were constructed in response to recurrent global disasters, offering shelter for a civilization that knew apocalypse was inevitable. Could human history be shaped less by continuous progress and more by cyclical resets and retreats underground? The Sumerian myths, central to LaCroix's thesis, introduce enigmatic figures like Enki and Enlil, gods who embody duality and polarity. Enki, a wisdom bringer and creator, is often cast as a trickster who preserves humanity's seed against Enlil's destructive will. This cosmic tension mirrors similar dualistic themes found throughout global myths and spiritual traditions. LaCroix reveals that humans were described as created in the image of these gods, omniscient, powerful fractals of source, yet were cast into a lower form of existence by jealousy and control. How does this reshape our understanding of free will, destiny, and the spiritual evolution of humanity itself? Diving into the myth of Adapa, the oldest Sumerian tablet known, LaCroix shares a startling message. The first man was not a mere mortal, but a wise being fashioned as chief among men, and was the most wise among the Anunnaki. This challenges the Darwinian perspective of human emergence and suggests a narrative where humanity represents a pinnacle of ancient divine wisdom, temporarily lost but awaiting rediscovery. Rather than being slaves or inferior creations, humans were designed for greatness, endowed with gifts that have since been suppressed or forgotten. What might awaken these dormant potentials within us? And how will this affect our future? LaCroix draws connections between ancient symbols found from Turkey to South America and beyond, weaving a narrative of a global civilization that shared sacred geometry, cosmic knowledge, and spiritual archetypes. The sun cross, the Trinity, the feathered serpent motif, these recur across cultures separated by oceans and millennia. The survival of these symbols through secret societies, religious orders like the Knights Templar, and even embedded in Christian iconography suggests an enduring lineage of esoteric wisdom. Could recognizing and understanding these symbols be the key to unlocking the mysteries of human consciousness and history? Finally, LaCroix critiques the modern education system and institutional orthodoxy for suppressing radical historical truths. Curricula designed to produce compliant workers leave little room for questioning the origins of civilization or exploring alternative perspectives. Gatekeepers like prominent archaeologists, intentionally or otherwise, maintain entrenched narratives, marginalizing breakthroughs that challenge the status quo. This conditioning limits humanity's collective growth, disconnecting us from the wisdom once held by our ancestors. How much longer will society continue to accept half-truths while the full story waits patiently beneath stones and sediment?